welcome back to the Miscellaneous Debris Podcast with me, your host, the Mad Chatter, Ryan MK. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining. I do appreciate it. Much appreciated. Yeah. And do please follow. Please do. Please do follow on the Twitters, on the Grams, at RMK Madness. That's where you can find me. That's where you can find my content. If you're into fantasy football, you can check out my Fantasy Madness podcast. And man, speaking of football, that was a fun-ass weekend of football, I would say. Or Sunday. I didn't really do the college. I have some thoughts on that, but it's mainly, I don't like that they don't get paid. And I've just never really found it as exciting. That's just me. I know some people, they usually live in states that don't really have pro teams, now that I think about it. But I have met people that will say, hey, we're much more into the college sports than pro sports. Nah. I can't agree. I just can't agree. So I very much enjoyed the Sunday NFL action. And I hope all of you enjoyed your weekend in whatever you did. It wasn't bad here at the Madhouse MK. Little snowy, yeah. Little chilly. It's that time of year. Got hit with it a little bit. The Broncos were playing in the snow. Well, they got their ass kicked in the snow. I don't know how much they actually played. It was more of an ass kicking, I would say. Yeah. But I'm sure this weather had to have helped our fire a little bit, which, that was getting a little fucking out of control anyways, so good timing, I would say. But it was nice to relax Sunday. I had a very long week last week, lots of stuff to do, so it was very, very nice to just have a relaxing Sunday. Can't go do anything anyway because it's cold and snowy outside. Don't forget your booties because it's cold out there. Groundhog Day. We're going to get to that. Groundhog Day. I love that movie. But yeah. Not much to do. So just sit around, be lazy, watch football. It was great. I enjoy those days. I really, really do. And it would appear that the whole family is getting into Among Us. Now, if you haven't played this, it's a game you can play it on your phone. Sounds like you can play it on PC maybe or something, but we do it on the phone. And it's a very cool game. You're basically a character. I know the map that I usually play, it's a spaceship. And you get all these different characters, and they all just look like cartoonish type people with no arms. It's just kind of like legs and blob in a spacesuit. I don't know how else to explain it. And there's one imposter in the group. The rest of the people are quote-unquote crewmates, and they have tasks they have to do. And so when the game starts, everybody has to go do their tasks. Now the imposter has to sneak around and try and kill people while they're doing tasks, but also look like he's doing tasks, he or she or they, while they are doing tasks themselves. They have to get that appearance while they're killing people. It's very fun. And then you can call meetings so people can discuss, and you try and figure out who the imposter is and vote him out. I'm not sure how great of a job I did explaining all of that, but there you go. That's the gist of it. But it's a fantastic, fun game, so it sounds like my brother, his wife, their two oldest kids, they all play it, and they all play it together. So now me and my wife will join. We're going to get the grandma, my mom. We're going to get her in on the action. We're going to get my 6-year-old. We're going to get him trying it out because he's smart enough. He should be able to handle that fucking game, no problem. He'll probably kick ass, actually. And it's a lot of fun. I'm just saying. Got to check it out. We're going to try and get a whole family room going. It'll be great. But Among Us, check it out. It's fun. It's fun stuff. So did a little bit of that. But yeah. Other than that, the World Series, Dodgers are up now 3-2. Almost forgot that. Baseball's almost over. We're just going to have football. Basketball and hockey, they're talking. The plan was, I think, to come back in December because normally they're coming back now. You know, normally the NBA, the NHL seasons are starting now, but they just ended, so they can't start now. So they're trying to think of how to reduce the seasons a little, get them going in December. We'll see how it goes. COVID may have something to say about that because it's having something to say about a lot of shit right now. But anyway, since we last spoke, there was that final presidential debate. They actually had one. And it actually wasn't quite as circusy as before. Definitely not as bad this go around. But I think right after it happened, I had a lot to say about it. And I didn't sit and watch it. I was watching Thursday Night Football, A, for my podcast, and B, because I'm not giving that shit ratings. But I, of course, check out what happened afterward. And I had a lot of thoughts. And after a couple days to digest, the bottom line was like, nothing happened to change anybody's mind. Like, if you, like, I can't imagine that debate swayed anybody other than it was pretty clear Trump has a certain segment of the population he's speaking to, whereas Joe Biden, like him or not the craziest about him, but I'll take it, he was trying to speak to the whole fucking country. And I would also say Trump clearly has no plan for anything. He's been talking about this great health care plan he has that's going to replace Obamacare when he gets rid of it. And there's nothing. Nothing. His 60-minute interview that he did, speaking of Trump, he cut it short, so he wasn't there. He was supposed to be sitting for part of it with Mike Pence. He wasn't there. They ended up leaving with the interviewer a folder that was supposed to be his health care plan. There was really nothing about it. It was just, I believe she just said like affidavits and congressional stuff. Like nothing that revealed an actual health plan. Like it's such a fucking mess. And that makes you wonder, what the fuck's going on here? Because he's either like conceded that he's already fucked, or he's just hoping that his base is strong enough that it gets it close enough so he can pull this election is a fraud bullshit. Maybe he doesn't plan on leaving at all. It just seems like he continuously says the wrong shit. And is that really his stupidity and stubbornness? Or does he not care because he has some other plan? I don't know. It's all very weird. But I know this much. Well, the election is not far away. A week from election eve. Yes. A week away from election eve. And so next week, we'll see what's going down. So, that being said, I'm going to start ramping back up the Miscellaneous Debris podcast. I'm going to get you another one coming later this week, and then we'll have another one. Yes, on Monday of next week, election eve. And then we'll have one again after the election, and we're gonna discuss. We're gonna get through this together, no matter what happens. Right. I digress. Back to the debate. So again, biggest takeaways for me were, I don't think it really mattered because I don't think either one did enough. Maybe Trump lost a few, but he's pretty much been the same thing he has been. So I don't. And some of the highlights, okay, we'll say some of my highlights was Trump saying he's not that he is the least racist person in the room. And he did this thing where it's like, I can't say it. It's very dark. It's very dark. I can't see, but I am the least racist person in the room. That was a terrible Trump. I haven't done the Trump in a while. That was bad. Worse than normal, because it's not ever very good, admittedly, honestly. But that was bad. So, maybe avoid that for a second. On the topic of detained immigrant children, Trump said they're well taken care of. To which Biden said 545 of them have no idea where their parents are. You could just see a few times Biden just looking at Trump like, what the fuck is up with this? Like, and hey, Mr. Joe, I feel you, man. I'm many a times like it, but it's at the point where like, are you still surprised by what he says or does? Hey, that could be just an act like, show your shock so that the American people see it. Like, what he said is shocking. Trump is shocking. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's a tactic. Because Biden himself can't be all that surprised by anything Trump says, right? I'm not anymore. But all that being said, again, biggest takeaways. I don't think it moved the whole needle a lot because at this point, the Trumpers are going to Trump and the rest of us want them the fuck out, right? Not a lot happened to sway that, I think, in the last debate. And really, again, Trump's proving more that he has no plan. And that he really has not taken the pandemic serious. I mean, it's all crazy. It's just, you know what? It's a good time for the Trump dump. But it's going to be a little bit different of a dump than normal. That sounded kind of awkward. Trump a dump!
You suck, you jackass!
Okay, now, as mentioned, this is not going to be so much of a dump this time. Because this time, I just want to reiterate why it is we need to get him the fuck out of the White House. And I thought about doing this next Monday, on Election Eve. But I've got some different ideas in mind for next Monday's pod. And so many people are voting early. A record-breaking number of people are voting early. As a matter of fact, more people have already voted early than did early voting in 2016, the entire election, and we've still got 9 days left to go of early voting. So people are voting early. In Philadelphia, there's a cool line of black peoples out there dancing in their voting line, social distancing and everything. Dancing, having a good time, waiting to vote. Because there's going to be a lot of trying to suppress the vote this year. You've seen it. I've read about fucking white supremacist groups, Trump loyalist groups, emailing Democratic voters and threatening them. I've heard about people showing up to vote with Black Lives Matter t-shirts getting fucked with. This is going to happen, particularly with Trumpers. Trumpers are fucking crazy. And they're liable to start shit. So, if you're not doing mail-in voting, if you're doing in-person voting, please be careful. Please be careful. And hey, our side ain't perfect either. Whoever's on our side, not perfect either. There's sure to be some jackasses out there dogging every fucking Trump supporter, and I get it, because I want to. Anytime I see one. But you got to maintain. You got to maintain a little bit. Can't go after all of them all at once anyway. Okay? Let's beat them with the fucking vote. Moving on. I just want to reiterate again why we cannot have him another 4 years. I mean, the pandemic alone is reason A. Exhibit A. The COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, the COVID-19 pandemic, which he has downplayed from the beginning. Admittedly said he downplayed not to, incite panic and all of this. And meanwhile, he's left certain states to fend for themselves, and lots of hospitals don't have the proper PPE which is personal protective equipment, to take care of their patients. Their hospitals are overrun. Or they were. Now they're getting back there. And yet, the police were mighty suited up to handle protesters. So Exhibit A, he's totally fucked up everything with this pandemic, led to a lot more American deaths than need be. That is on his hands. Whether he wants to admit it or not, or his supporters want to admit it or not, that's on him. Had he not downplayed this, a lot of lives would have been saved. Just facts. As mentioned, he has no plan for anything. Obamacare, it's just, yeah, it's terrible, but we'll get something better. But don't worry about those pre-existing conditions. We got those covered. Yes, we do. No, he is lying again. Why does anybody believe a fucking word he says? Cube, Ice Cube, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're gonna work with Trump? He's just trying to get your vote, dude. Come on, bro. Anyway, moving on. But again, it baffles the mind. He just has no plans. So he's either, again, expecting to lose, or he doesn't care. And maybe he doesn't care because he doesn't have a plan. I don't know. But it's pretty clear where he's at, right? Back to the pandemic, continuously saying we're around the corner. He's still that we're turning the corner. We're turning a corner. He continually lies. And it's not just that he lies, he rejects science. He supports conspiracy theories on social media. He emboldens white supremacist groups. And meanwhile, claims he's done more for black people than any president. Even though he calls Black Lives Matter, that movement, a terrorist organization. He calls them thugs. He calls the protesters, well, thugs and rioters. And yet, he doesn't really go so far as to condemn. I mean, if you press him hard enough, he'll say, yes, of course I don't like white supremacy. But he doesn't come out and be as vocal about it as he does with this Black Lives Matter movement, right? Which is so odd. And Antifa. And I'm sure Antifa's not perfect. I'm sure there's not great people in Antifa. But Antifa is basically anti-fascism. Hello? And he's really got a problem with it. Also, the fact that he doesn't even believe there's racial injustice in this country. He wants to take away racial sensitivity training in government programs. He wants to redo our educational system so that we're not talking about slavery. He basically wants to take out all the bad parts of America's history and act like they don't exist. That's insane. Oh, that's my cat scratching at the door, being an asshole. I tried to let her in earlier, I was going to sit here and smoke a bowl with her before the show started. That's what she wants. She's old. Helps her out. She comes in here for it. That's why she's scratching. Right now. That's why she's scratching. I'm telling you. So, I continue. He claims all of this, I've done all this for the black people. But look at the actions, look at the behaviors, and look what he said. Look how hard it was for him to condone white supremacy, right? But again, he'll lash out at Antifa and Black Lives Matter all the time. And the bottom line is he doesn't give a shit about us through this whole pandemic. Why do you think he downplayed it? It wasn't to not cause pain. He didn't want anything to go wrong. And he was banking on this just going away. Probably because he had some gut feeling or something, you know. I just don't feel, I just got this feeling. This is nothing. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to just go through real quickly. We don't have to worry. No problem. Wonderful people are taking care of this. We're going to be fine. Yeah, the Trump is terrible. The impersonation is terrible. I feel like the last time I did it, it was like I was getting better at some point, but now I've just lost it all. Just lost it all, I'll be honest. But the bottom line, folks, madcaps, is this motherfucker does not care about any of us. He cares a little bit about some of his rich friends. But when it comes down to it, he's no good for climate change. He's no good for this pandemic, which isn't going away anytime soon. So we don't want him to continue to lead us in that, I would say. He's no good for a lot of reasons. And I believe bad shit happens if he gets re-elected. So we'll see what happens next week. A little scary. And I would also remind any of you on the fence, although if you're listening to this, you're probably not at all on the fence. But if you by chance are, I would just say grab that fascism checklist. Google one, look it up, and just go through that and think about it and say, honestly, can we check this off for Trump? What about this and this? Ask yourself honestly. And then when you're done and you see all those fucking check marks, you can go, whoa, shit. Joe Biden, probably not so bad after all. Right? 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 Yeah. That's yes. Yes. The marijuana is good. Excuse me, anyway. So, now that we got, serious Trump stuff out the way and, we're all on this mission to get the orange man out of the White House come next week. Now that we're set on that, I want to have a little fun. Last week, we discussed the new UFO documentary, The Phenomenon. And, we discussed that, other alien docs, the alien stuff in general. Some of my favorite stuff to chat about. But there's some new movies coming out that I am interested in seeing. And obviously, The Phenomenon was new. So that was kind of the lead into this. But you know what? You're not going to catch me in the fucking theaters. Not with what's going on. No. You won't catch me in the theaters. But I do anticipate, or I am rather excited for some of this stuff coming out. Like, for example, I want to see Space Jam 2. I wasn't sure I was going to. And, I have this weird relationship with LeBron. And it's really a one-way, because he doesn't know me. He doesn't know I exist. And so we wouldn't say we know each other or anything like that. But just based on someone who's watched him and as a basketball fan, I started out thinking, man, this guy's great and he's fun to watch. And then I didn't like the whole way he went to Miami. And then I kind of got over that and I was like, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And then we get into his return to Cleveland and magical, right? And he gained some respect. But then there was the whole thing, the Houston Rockets GM who made a comment about supporting Hong Kong, and LeBron James kind of wanted him to keep his mouth shut because he makes money from China. And it's like, hey, no. You can't tell us to keep quiet about Hong Kong protesters and then sit here and say, fucking fight for black lives. You can't do that, LeBron. You gotta fight for everybody. Everybody. I lost a little bit of respect for him there. And he gives a shit what I think of him, but, that's some bullshit. Muhammad Ali's daughter didn't like it either. So, just saying. Just saying. But I can put all that aside to check out this Space Jam 2 because I did quite enjoy the first one, loved it as a kid, really. And the second one sounds interesting. Sounds like the Looney Tunes help LeBron go find his missing son. And they have to go through the Warner Brother catalog of movies to do this. Like, what characters are they going to run into? This is going to be fascinating. This is going to be fascinating. I really am. I really am interested. I think it's going to be crazy. Also coming out, Coming to America, Part 2. But the Coming to America, the 2 is actually the number 2 to let you know that it's the second movie. You know when it's one of those situations. But man, that looks fun. Coming to America 2. Coming to America. And then there's a Bob's Burgers movie. I didn't know that was existing. I didn't know that was coming out. What is this? Now, I'm not this huge Bob's Burgers proponent, but I do rather like it. It's not one that I've seen and watched a ton of. I've done that with Family Guy, American Dad, South Park. Those are probably the biggest ones. Back in the day, The Simpsons, obviously. But I was never huge on King of the Hill, Futurama. I'd like to get into Rick and Morty. I know everybody's into that shit, and it looks pretty good, but the time, where's the time? I have all this shit everybody wants me to watch, and it's difficult. Like, it'll probably be 2 years before I see Space Jam 2 or Coming to America. Also, Borat 2. I gotta see this. This one, I'm not waiting for. I'm gonna see this as soon as possible because it's great, I hear. It's great. And he's so funny. And the whole thing with Rudy Giuliani, oh my goodness. That fucking guy. And Trump's out there calling him a creep. Says Sacha Baron Cohen is a creep. At least he knew his name was Sacha, not Borat. Like Rudy Giuliani. Insane people. But the new movies got me thinking about old movies and movies that, hold up. Last week on the last pod, was that last week? Yeah. I mentioned Willow because I really am curious about it to see if that holds up because that was one I loved as a kid and I could really see that holding up well. Because there are some that hold up and, there's some that don't, obviously, due to the change in times and all of that. Like you think about stand-up comedy, there's a lot of people that would have problems with some of Eddie Murphy's, like Raw, for example. And there's some parts in that derogatory terms for gay people used a lot in that. So, I think there's certain aspects of, films, comedy, all sorts of things in the past that are re-examined now and they just don't hold up, right? Makes sense. But there's shit that does. There's shit that does. I mean, I was discussing with my family because I was sitting there wondering, I guess not wondering, but thinking about like how when I was young, I was probably 10 years old when I saw Die Hard, and I know some of you are thinking, hey, that seems a little young for Die Hard, but yeah, so whatever. And never would I have thought in a million years that when I grew up, not only would this be like a classic movie, but that it would also be considered a fucking Christmas movie by many. I never would have thought Army of Darkness, which was a movie my brothers and I used to watch, and we got a fucking kick out of it every time. We just loved it. Never would have thought it would become a cult classic, that Ash would get his own fucking TV show. I never would have known. It just never would have known. Never would have picked it. But I looked at some, like, the movies, well, beginning with the 80s. I was born in 82. So some of the stuff I saw, early on growing up, you think about Beetlejuice, The Goonies, The Never-Ending Story. So the movies I was watching as I was growing up. And hey, for the most part, Beetlejuice, people still love that shit. I know I do. The Goonies, that still holds up. Never-Ending Story, I was watching that the other day. My 3-year-old, though, couldn't take his fucking eyes off of it. Must hold up. get into the 90s movies, particularly around Halloween time, because you get Hocus Pocus, Nightmare Before Christmas. We watched that probably 10 times every fucking October because we all just love it so much. I walk around the house singing the fucking songs. Nightmare Before Christmas is the shit, and it holds up. So does Hocus Pocus for that matter. There's a lot of movies like the Jurassic Park movies. Tombstone. Holy fuck, that's such a good movie. Little quick side story. So my dad, I got to a certain point. I was probably, I don't know, it was probably right around 10. That's probably when I saw Die Hard. But I got to the point where my dad, he knew I was kind of a little smarter, more mature than most kids my age, which I was. That's just not trying to brag. I was in a gifted program, things like that. At one point in time, I was really fucking smart. Not that I'm still not, but I think over the years I kind of knocked some of it out the head, is all. It happens, I imagine. But my dad, I don't, and maybe it was just he wanted a buddy late at night. But once my mom went to bed, he would let me come out of my room and come downstairs and watch TV with him. And this is how I saw like Die Hard. What else did I see? Well, quite a bit. We watched tons of movies. Aliens, Predator. I know you're thinking this is great stuff for this kid to be watching, but I was fine. I turned out all right for the most part. But then we got to the point where he actually, a couple of times, took me to the theater late at night to see a movie. Jurassic Park was the first time. I was so happy. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen the entire fucking time. I hadn't done a lot of movie theaters up to that point, and to go see this with these dinosaurs, it was so amazing to me. Tombstone. That movie still holds up, and that movie is fucking phenomenal, and I just love me some Doc Holliday. Val Kilmer, I don't know what the hell. I've never thought of him as just one of those spectacular actors because in all his other stuff, there's just not a whole lot, if you ask me. But fucking A, did he pull off some Doc Holliday? Woo! It's like nobody's business, right? But my dad, it was just really cool, and maybe he probably shouldn't have been doing that. Whatever. But it was a cool bonding experience, and I enjoyed it. And I got a, special bond with some of those movies because of that. So, yeah. Shit that holds up. TV shows. I was thinking about this. Some of the old comedy, because there is some shit that definitely does not hold up. But I was thinking The Shield. My wife and I started watching that. It had been some time, and we're going to get back into it. So I'll have to see if that one truly holds up. Because that was, that had some on the line shit back in the day when it was airing, But that was one of the things that was great about it. So it should be okay. But we'll find out. But I still laugh at Friends. Still to this day. I still love that shit. Cheers, my wife and I had been binging Cheers for a while there. And that's still pretty damn good. We were waiting for the point where Coach died and Woody Harrelson comes out. I mean, not that we were sitting around waiting for Coach to die. But we just knew it was happening. And we're like, he's funny, but we're ready for Woody now. Because if you start at Cheers at the beginning, you don't realize really how deep into the series it gets before Woody shows up. You don't realize that. But that's a good show. I really do like that show. I used to watch that one with my dad. Oh, I totally forgot about Cliffhanger. See, because one thing is you see some of the stuff, they're still trying to make Die Hard movies, right? Because we mentioned Die Hard. They're still trying to make Rambo movies, which I don't get. But I never really, the Rambo was never really one I got into. I don't think I was that into Sylvester Stallone. And then really that's what made me think of Cliffhanger, because that was one that I actually did really like. And I remember my dad saying, like, look, the first 5 minutes of this movie are intense as a motherfucker. And I was like, I'm ready for it. That was a good movie and intense. And then Demolition Man. Man, I love some Demolition Man. That is one of my top movies of all time. I just get a kick out of it. I just find it's pure enjoyment and entertainment. But I really love Demolition Man. And I really feel like they should remake that movie. Now, I'm not one of those who bitches about remakes. I think sometimes there are those that do a terrible job. Maybe they try too hard or something. But for the most part, I kind of like to see a new take on a story that I enjoy. And I would like to see a remake of Demolition Man. But bear with me. They need to cast me, the Mad Chatter, as Simon. Right? See? And then when we reverse it, and we get a black dude to play the John Spartan lead character, the cop, the good guy, that's what we do. And I'll be the crazy ass Simon. I could play a good Simon. Simon Says, die. I could do it so good. Better than that. That was just my first try. But anyway, sorry, I looked down and noticed that I had totally forgotten about my Stallone rant. So I had to get into that real quick. But anyway, I guess there wasn't much left to say about TV shows other than, same with movies. Some of those hold up really well, some of them don't. And did you hear about the new Dexter coming out? Now, for those of you that were Dexter fans, it sounds like we're getting more Dexter, and they're catching up with him years after his, we last left off with him. Oh, Jesus. That damn speaker. I hate when that happens. It scares the shit out of me. Sometimes I just forget about the damn speaker, and then it turns off, and it just, out of nowhere, spooks me. Anyway. Dexter. We're getting more Dexter. This is great. This is great. And if you don't know Dexter, fast forward a few seconds, because if you decide on checking it out, I'm about to talk about the ending real quick. So, spoiler alert, skip forward like 30. 1, 2, 3, go. Now, everybody hates how that shit ended with Dexter. I think it's fucking hilarious. Now, granted, I'll admit, I didn't watch the last couple of seasons. But I know what happened. I read up on what happened. My brother told me, and then I read up on what happened. So I know the end of the story. I find it funny. I always plan on going back to finish it. I do that a lot with shows. TV shows, they're hard for me to finish through. Game of Thrones, I finished that one all the way through. Some would say, could have done without that. Could have done without the final one. But anyway, I digress. That's what I got for you on movie chatter, TV show chatter, what holds up, what I think holds. And, if you get some good ideas about what you think does hold up or doesn't hold up, feel free to add me on Twitter and let me know your thoughts. Give me your list of what you think. Shit does hold up and what doesn't. At RMK Madness on Twitter, hit me up. Yeah.
May I please have your attention? The store will be closing in 5 minutes.
That is right. Be closing in 5 minutes. Yes. Anyway, before we get out of here, I had mentioned how I won't be going to the theater because, there's a pandemic and it's just getting worse. Even though the president of our country, one of the most powerful people in the world, continues to say that we're turning the corner, continues to lie about it, shit is getting worse. We just had a breaking record for daily cases. 83,757, and that was on Friday. A new record. Now. So it's not gone away, people. And the problem is, you look back, again, to the pandemic of 1918. Similar shit, right? Because it starts out, not everyone's taking it seriously. Winter hits. Boom. That second wave. And that third wave. We're in for a little bit of a rough winter, as I've mentioned several times before, and I'm not going to get deep into it, other than just say, please be careful, people. I mean, I understand you still want to live, and you have the COVID fatigue. I get all that. But life's too precious, man. And woman, peeps, my mad caps, it's too precious. Don't be so flippant with it that you're going to put yourself around people who may not be playing this shit safe. Because I'd hate to see some people I care about, And if you're a listener and you've been around, or even if this is your first show, I'd hate to hear about anybody you care about. Not just, and we're not just talking about death, just getting this thing. There's a football player for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so an NFL player, Raquel Armstead. This dude has not been able to get off the COVID-19 list on his team since before the season started. Because he keeps having fucking complications from this shit. This is a young dude, prime athlete, and he's having major fucking complications from this. People, take this shit seriously. For fuck's sake. And I know if you're listening to me, most of you probably do. Most of you probably do. I'm sure there's probably one or two people out there, if I even have that many listeners, that just listen to hate, but then again, maybe not, because I figured I'd hear the hate somewhere. I don't see it in the Tubes comments. I don't see it on Twitter, so maybe I don't have any haters. As of yet, I'm working on it. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Okay. But after next week, hopefully, we have a bit of sunshine, a little bit of brightness, a little bit of positivity to take us into the winter. And that would be with the defeat of Donald Trump. Yes. So make sure to vote. And stay warm, because it is getting cold out there. And places that, it does get cold. Colorado, it is fucking cold here, I tell you. Vote. And as always, much love to you all. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. And stay mad. Why? Because all the best of us are, of course. That's right. Anyway. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Take care of yourselves. And hey, we'll chat again soon. Yes. Ta-ta for now. Laters.